Out of all the rookies that were drafted this year, there's probably none with a larger burden and more attention on their shoulders than Joe Burrow. And that's why today we're going to be taking a look at Joe Burrow's entire NFL career to see if he can lead the Bengals to the promised land, or if he's another Bengals quarterback that'll eventually leave town and go play elsewhere. Now, before we jump into Joe Burrow's stats and sort of looking at his profile, I want to remind you guys of two things. One, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification. That helps out an absolute ton, and you can make sure you don't miss out on any future videos. And two, make sure you leave a thumbs up on the video. And while you're at it, 3, leave a comment down below and tell me which player I should be doing next, because I'm curious what you guys want to see next. Now for Joe Burrow, he's a 75 overall, and I'm also using the TFG Real Football roster from that franchise guy. He put this roster out on Xbox One, and it is incredible. Again, look for TFG Football on the Madden share, and you can find it. For Joe Burrow's ratings, he's at 91 throw power. His deep, medium, and short accuracy are all in the low to high 80s, depending on where you're looking. So on the run, play action, under pressure are all good. Awareness and break sack are #nice, but they'll be okay, I think, for now. His speed is really good at an 80. He's got great acceleration, great agility, stamina, injury, and toughness are fantastic. But after that, it kind of drops down a little bit. But still, he can scramble a little bit, doesn't have to essentially run that much, but he is a really good running back in Joe Mixon with a good guy behind him in Giovanni Bernard. I think he'll be fine in the ground game. And something to call out, I did make 2 adjustments to this roster. One, I turned his depth trait from normal to superstar, and I also added T. Higgins to the roster because at the time of this video, T. Higgins was not on the roster. So for his abilities, he has inside deadeye, the ability to have more perfect accuracy in all throws inside the numbers, and he also has pocket deadeye, the ability to have perfect accuracy in all unpressured throws while their feet are set in the pocket. So these are good for Joe Burrow. Let's see how his first season ultimately does. Now, lo and behold, the Bengals actually make the postseason in year 1, which I'm honestly surprised about. They end up going 8-8 and they're facing the Colts, who are 11-5. But let's see how Joe Burrow did. So Burrow has a pretty solid year. He goes 4,135 yards passing, which is 7th in the entire NFL. He throws for 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Would have loved to have seen more touchdowns, but still, that's not the worst ratio in the world. On the ground, Joe Mixon had a great year, 1,200 yards at 9 touchdowns. Giovanni Bernard had a couple touchdowns of his own. Burrow ran for 72 yards. Again, they're not expecting him to run a ton, so that's okay. On the receiving side, T. Higgins has 72 grabs for 1,000 yards, the only Bengals receiver to go for 1,000 yards. And he's also rocking Daniel Jacinco's old number of 85. 7 touchdowns for him. AJ Green, solid from the receiving yard standpoint, trash from the touchdowns. Zoma, 750 in the air, 9 touchdowns, which again led the entire team. You see Tyler Boyd, decent year. You can tell he's not too happy about that. Joe Mixon gets involved in the pass game a little bit, and Sample gets some too, but outside of that, no one else got a receiving touchdown. Now, in this world, Andrew Luck comes back and goes to play for the Patriots. Imagine that, but he gets 2nd in the MVP despite that team only going 6-9-1. Kind of odd. Keep in mind, this roster starting in 2019, so guys like Drew Lock are going to essentially show here, but Rookie of the Year, you see Herbert ends up taking that with the Chargers, and Burrow finishes 4th, but in real life, he would have been 2nd in this case. So to check out the postseason, we're going to see what the Bengals can actually do. We will simulate that in real time. Burrow destroyed the Colts. What? 26-7. Okay, Joe Burrow. So okay. Let's see if looks like we got somebody in our team actually did something well. Joe Burrow threw for 242 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, got sacked once, ran for 10 yards, but he led his team to a victory. That's impressive. All right, so Burrow's trying to prove that he can just win in the NFL as easily as he did in college, his year at LSU. See what he does here in the divisional round against the division-leading Browns. He beats them. Okay. Hey, Joe Burrow. Now you're facing the Texans. They got a guy, Deshaun Watson, who's young and electric as well. Can you beat Deshaun Watson in that defense? Let's go ahead and find out. They won. Are you kidding me? Just for the record, before you come in here and try to say that I made them win or something of that nature, as you can tell, forced win is set for none for all of them. They're doing it out here. And to see how he did, he threw for 349 passing yards, 3 touchdowns in that game. This dude is incredible, and he's going to play in the Super Bowl in his rookie year. The heck, Joe Burrow? No one thought Joe Burrow and the Bengals would be in the Super Bowl, but somehow they've made it. I don't exactly know how, but they've done it. Can Joe Burrow win a Super Bowl in his rookie year? Because if he does, they're probably going to name a street after him in Cincinnati, I can imagine. But unfortunately, Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to lose by 7 points in the Super Bowl. They had a chance. They had a game-winning drive opportunity, but they could not get it done. Of course, I would have loved to show you guys the CPU versus CPU with some highlights and some sims, but Madden franchise mode is behind the times and you cannot do that. So unfortunately, we don't get to watch that, but Joe Burrow is crying with the confetti. But kid, look, it's only your rookie year. Let's see what you can do for the rest of your career. For the record, Joe Burrow actually got injured in this game. He threw for 4 touchdowns, had 300 yards passing, but he got injured. Let's see how long that injury is, because that could obviously impact him going into next year. So Joe Burrow ended up having a partial PCL tear, but say he has 6 weeks left, so he should recover in the offseason, be healthy for the next year, but still, we'll see how that impacts him going in his second year. Now, in the NFL draft, the Bengals went after a tight end and got a 76 overall, but really, that's the only major thing they got. So at least a little bit more help is coming in for Burrow in case Uzomah is not there next year. As we start his second season, Burrow is now an 83 overall. So that's an 8 overall jumping point, which again is huge. And Burrow, he's ready to get things going. Can he do better than 8-8? I don't know. But can he get his team back to the Super Bowl? That seems impossible. So Joe Burrow is apparently magic. He has led the Bengals from 8-8 in his rookie year to 11-5 in his second year. And he's going to be playing the Baltimore Ravens. I would pay to see this game. Lamar versus Joe Burrow. That would be electric. As for Burrow's stats, he goes 12th in the NFL with 3,800 passing yards, 40 touchdowns this time though, almost doubling what he had last season, and then 6 interceptions, so almost cutting his interceptions in half. Heck of a year. On the ground, Mixon had 1,100 yards. Joe Burrow ran for, I think, less yards this year with 45, but still, his running game was on point. He didn't need to run a lot. In the air, AJ Green, 903 yards, 9 touchdowns. T. Higgins, though, 59 catches for 888 yards, so down from the yardage standpoint and catches standpoint, but 15 receiving touchdowns. The kid has a future. That being said, Burrow gets no love for the MVP. Tannehill actually is going to win that one. Jameis Winston's on the Giants now, and as you can tell, no love for Burrow at all. Burrow does finish 6th in terms of Offensive Player of the Year, and for Best Quarterback, we can see where he goes really quickly on that, 2nd. So again, he's getting better, he's getting more notoriety in the league, but it's time to see if he can win in the playoffs in his second year. So to go ahead and sim it again, the divisional round against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens should be an incredible game, and it looks like they took it now. There's an injury, looks like Billy Price actually got injured, and outside of that, it was not a very good game for Joe Burrow. So Lamar had 4 touchdowns, 1 interception on 240 yards. Burrow actually didn't play that bad. 257 passing yards on 2 touchdowns, but ultimately that wasn't enough for his team. So apparently I missed it, but Joe Burrow did get hurt in the postseason game, which maybe is why he only had 2 touchdowns. But still, the guy's got to stay healthy at this point. He's now an 86 overall going into year number 3. He's about to get another attribute upgrade right here. But if we see what he actually has for his abilities right now, still inside Deadeye and pocket Deadeye. I guess he has to go to the X Factor to really get the other ones, but when he's playing, he might be well on his way. So in year number 3, the Bengals go back significantly. They finished the year at 6-10, which is a far cry from what happened even in year 1 and year 2. Joe Burrow, let's see how you did. So Burrow finishes 16th in passing yards with 3,800. He has 30 touchdowns, again 10 down from last year, and 9 interceptions, 3 more than last year. Again, not a bad year by any stretch, but it's not what he did last year, so we got to figure out what's going on here. On the ground, Mixon had nearly 1,300 yards. Burrow ran for a career-high 111 with 2 rushing touchdowns. And then in the air, AJ Green, still playing at this point, almost 800 yards. T. Higgins, almost 800 yards as well. He led the team with, it looks like, 8 receiving touchdowns. Boyd had a couple, again, a solid year. And then Mason Barwin, the tight end they got, dominated. I mean, Uzomah is really not even playing that much. So these 4 guys have been really good for Burrow. Maybe just the defense let the team down this year. Heading into year 4, Joe Burrow is now getting his 2nd season as the captain. He's now an 88 overall, and again, he's starting to play a lot better. But we gotta hope that, for his sake, he can lead the team to a better record. Because 6-10, after getting that success in years 1 and 2, will not get the job done in year 4. The good news for Burrow is that year 4 does see a little bit of success. They are facing the Ravens again in the first round of the playoffs, which, if you remember last time, they called an L. Burrow ends up eclipsing 4,000 passing yards in year number 4 to put him 8th in the NFL in passing yards. He gets 39 touchdowns, 1 away from his career high, and he gets 10 interceptions. Again, those are not bad numbers. You will live with those, especially when you're getting your team into the postseason. On the ground, Mixon continues a dominant stretch, 1,300 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. Burrow gets 150 yards again. I believe that is, again, a career high with 111 last year, and then 1 rushing touchdown. So Burrow's putting it all together right now. And then in the air, Russell Gage Jr. got 1,025 yards and 11 touchdowns. Who the heck is that? He went to LSU, so maybe somehow Burrow knows him at that point. You see Tyler Boyd with 905. T. Higgins has a down year, 760 with 7 touchdowns. Mason Barwin again, solid year for the tight end. So again, he's got a core 4. AJ Green has retired now, but His team is still looking pretty good offensively. And while Burrow is nowhere near the top of the MVP voting, he does get number 8. So he's starting again to climb his way back up top. Can he just win in the postseason this time? So to kick off the wildcard round, we will go ahead and sim that to see if they can actually get past Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they do. They're going to end up facing, it looks like, the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll go ahead and sim that. And then here we go. Against the Jaguars, can they actually win that game and advance back to the AFC Conference Championship? For the second time in his career, they're going to go ahead and do that. A couple of players to upgrade will sim past those guys again. And Joe Burrow is taking on the Dolphins, who have now, again, with Tua, worked their way back to being relevant. Can he get back to the Super Bowl for the second time in his career? In only 4 short years, Joe Burrow has done a lot. Will it be enough? It is not. Tua is going to go to the Super Bowl instead against Chicago. I'm imagining Trubisky's not there. And whoa, excuse me, Tua is not even in Miami. It's Andrew Luck. He's traveling everywhere right now. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Joe Burrow stayed healthy, but had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Not a good look for Joe. On the ground, though, Mixon had a monster game with 160. Andrew Luck ran for 12. Burrow ran 1 time for 1 yard. And then in the air, Tyler Boyd, 5 for 77. Russell Gage Jr., 6 for 62. T. Higgins with 5 for 48. But his top 3 guys couldn't get him a touchdown, and it's not going to work out very well. The good news for Joe Burrow is he is going to make the Pro Bowl roster again in his career. Now, at 90 overall, he's QB3. Got to imagine he would love to be QB1 at some point. In year number 5, Joe Burrow is now a superstar X Factor at 90 overall. It looks like Bazooka is ultimately going to be his superstar X Factor ability, which it is. So maximum throw distance when he's in the zone is increased by 15 plus yards. Again, inside Deadeye, pocket Deadeye staying in there. He also has clutch. Midway through the 4th quarter in close games, players' this ability can easily enter and remain in the zone. Pocket lead, extended range, and all in pressure precision passing from the pocket, except on high or low throws. And he has 1 left at 95 overall. We'll see what that one is, but Burrow's balling right now. He's got all the things that he needs. Throw power, deep, medium, and short accuracy are all incredible. Throwing the run still decently high. Play action, throwing the pressure have gotten a lot better. Speed, agility, and acceleration are all pretty much the same. So Joe Burrow got an opportunity here in year number 5 to get yourself back to the conference championship and maybe the Super Bowl. Can you do it? So Burrow and the Bengals get back to the postseason yet again. This time they're facing the Browns, who had a tie at 10-5-1, but Burrow and the Bengals are 9-7. A couple of players to upgrade here. Looks like Dalton Harrison, but let's go ahead and see what Joe Burrow's stats were this year, and then we'll go ahead and see, can he get back to advancing in the postseason. So Burrow just misses 4,000 passing yards in a year, finishing 10th in the league in passing yards, but he had a down year from a touchdown perspective. 28 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. QB rating's high, but the touchdowns are falling. On the ground, Mixon again continues to kill it. 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. Devin Singletary joined the team this year, ran for almost 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. Burrow got a career-high 3 touchdowns, but 81 rushing yards, not exactly his highest. But T. Higgins has 1 heck of a rebound year. The touchdowns weren't exactly there because I think you saw Burrow across the board was down, but 1,300 yards receiving, 89 grabs, 6 touchdowns. It's a heck of a year, and I'm sure he'll take that. Barwin again, 10 touchdowns, leads the team, 800 yards for him, and Tyler Boyd, a solid year, nothing too crazy, but I think that T. Higgins is making the jump to be the #1 receiver on this team. So the wild card round set to be played. Let's see if Burrow and the Bengals can actually beat the Browns. They did not beat them in week 17, and they're going to lose to them in the playoffs by a similar score. So Burrow, his offseason is starting right now. So looking at the roster, Joe Mixon is 28 years old, 94 overall, the best player on the team by far. But Burrow is coming for that title right now. He's been the captain for a little bit, at 91 at 28 years old. And T. Higgins, I told you guys, #1 receiver. He's now taking that throne. Boyd is starting to retract a little bit. Higgins now an 88 overall, but Burrow, again, gotta love what he's doing. 91 overall, superstar X Factor. Has not, again, got that final ability. He's probably a season or 2 away from that. But right now, this has got to be the year that they make that big jump and go back to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately for the Bengals, they finished 9-7. The Browns were 10-6, and they missed the postseason for the first season in quite a while. It's tough, but Burrow, back to the drawing board. His passing stats were pretty similar to last year, except for the touchdown standpoint. Again, 3,600 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's where he probably wants to be, a single digit again, but still not the final result they wanted of getting into the postseason and trying to advance. Mixon had a career high so far, I believe, 1,600 yards rushing. Burrow ran for 104 with 1 touchdown. In the air, see Arcega Whiteside goes for 816. Higgins goes for 794 with 6 touchdowns. But look and Mason Barwin, 11 touchdowns. This guy gets double digits almost every single year now. In year number 7, Burrow is now at 92 overall. But again, is this the year that he finally gets his team back to deep in the postseason? Let's find out. So the Bengals dominated this year, 12-4, one of their better records so far in Joe Burrow's career. And as you can imagine, the divisional round, they're facing the Baltimore Ravens. A tough team for them, but let's see how Burrow did and then see if he can advance yet again. Burrow absolutely killed it this year, though, from the passing yard standpoint. 4,200 yards puts him second in the entire NFL. 39 touchdowns, one off his career high, and 11 interceptions. Not great, but still, he balled out this year. On the ground, Mixon, again, at 29 years of age, killed it. 1,400 yards for him, but only 5 rushing touchdowns. You see Burrow down here with 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can pretty much chalk him up for around 100 with a handful of touchdowns every year. T. Higgins comes back. I feel like he has a big year, a down year, and a big year and a down year. He ended up missing 1 game this year, but 91 grabs, 1,300 yards, and 12 receiving touchdowns. That's what you want to see. Mason Barwin, though, uncharacteristically had 2 touchdowns on 900 yards. Boyd comes back, 10 touchdowns for him in his 9th year. Good to see him getting back in the red zone. And while he doesn't win the MVP, Burrow does do pretty well still. 4th in the MVP voting behind Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, and Nelson Cloud of the Vikings. And Lamar Jackson's been racking up award after award. He also takes home the best quarterback, with Burrow finishing behind him in 2nd place. So to see what Burrow and the Bengals can do, we're going to sim this week to see if they can actually beat the Bengals and see how he actually performed. He's going to be performing in the Pro Bowl because he's not making it anywhere past the Ravens. As Burrow and Mixon all hit 30 years of age, you've got these 2 guys at 95 and 93 overall, with T. Higgins now as a 91. They get a little bit of help here with a superstar defensive tackle in Mike Watson. Some of their guys are getting a little bit older now, but this feels like honestly the strongest team they've had. But is it enough? Burrow is now a 93 overall. Again, he's 2 overall for getting to 95, which would give him his final dev trader, his final ability for Superstar X Factor. Will he get it this year? I don't know. But year number 8, again, there's a lot of pressure. Can he do it? And while it isn't their best record overall, 9-7 gets them into the postseason facing a tough Tennessee Titans team. Burrow, how did he do this year? Another year of 4,000 passing yards for Joe Burrow, putting him 6th in the entire NFL. He has 34 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. I believe 13 interceptions is the most he's thrown in his career in one season, but a QB rating of 107.4, 34 touchdowns, can't really be mad at that. The ground, Mixon, again, is the ageless wonder. At 30, puts up 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns. With only 1 fumble all season long. And Burrow, he does what he does. 93 yards, no touchdowns. T. Higgins actually doesn't crack 1,000 yards this year on 73 grabs. He is 974, but he does put up double-digit touchdowns with 10. Boyd still hanging around here with 3 touchdowns and 884. Barwin, 856, and doubles and then adds 1 to his touchdown total last year. But look at Ken Pearson. This guy's 6'5", 225 at a SMU. 58 grabs, 600 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He might be a good weapon for them in the postseason. So for the wildcard round, Burrow is going to try to take out the Titans. Can he absolutely do that here? He's got an opportunity. He blow them out 35-7, and then he takes on Patrick Mahomes at 11-5. That's going to be a tough one right there. And they do get an injury. Let's see who the injury is really quickly. It's going to be Archer Carr, which is their left outside linebacker, starting there. It's going to hurt their defense, which has not been good so far. So for that game, he played really well. 328 yards and 4 touchdowns. Can't really be mad at that. Daniel Jones playing for the Titans now. Got sacked 3 times and didn't throw a touchdown. You hate to see it. On the ground, Mixon had a pretty pedestrian game, averaging 3.5 yards per carry. And then on the receiving side, T. Higgins went off. 10 grabs, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's what a number 1 receiver is supposed to do. So coming off a big game with the injury to the defense, can Joe Burrow beat the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes? I'm probably going to say no just because Mahomes is absolutely incredible, but they win by 7. And they're facing the Ravens in the AFC Conference Championship. This is about to be a good one. So Burrow has another really good game here. 3 touchdowns for him, almost 300 yards passing. Mahomes has more passing yards, but only has 1 touchdown with 1 interception, and he got sacked twice. On the ground, Singletary actually was our best guy. Oh, did we see an injury to Joe Mixon? That could be absolutely huge for this team. But 78 yards for him and no sign of Joe Mixon anywhere. I think he might have been injured. In the air, T. Higgins only has 4 grabs, but he does have 99 yards for 1 touchdown. You also see Ken Pearson, 2 for 66 and 1 touchdown. Again, that dude is a huge target, and he's showing off in the red zone right now. And looking at the injury report, we have no one there. So apparently Joe Mixon has had a game injury and should probably be back for this upcoming one. So can Joe Mixon do it again? At 9-7, they're taking on the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens. We've seen Lamar Jackson, a 99 overall at this point. Can Joe Mixon do it? They won by 13. He's going back to the Super Bowl. So I freaked out for a moment. We see Leo Hobart comes in with 4 yards and 1 touchdown, but he only came in for probably a trick play, I would imagine. Lamar Jackson throws for 274, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Joe Burrow does not have a great game at all. 218 for 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He got sacked twice. Not exactly ideal. On the ground, Mixon, again, healthy, 16 for 89. Singletary also comes in 9 for 67, but he has not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns out there. So honestly, if you're giving an MVP, it's probably him. In the air, Baltimore had a guy named Colin Rubin go 10 for 98. Jason Barr went 5 for 97, but we're not really seeing T. Higgins do anything outside of 1 for 25. We still won. So here it goes, the Super Bowl versus the Philadelphia Eagles. We're gonna see if there's anybody to upgrade actually here. Just a guy that will probably not even play in this game. But Joe Burrow versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Who is gonna win that Super Bowl? Let's go find out. The Super Bowl is here, and Joe Burrow comes back here for the second time in his NFL career. Can he do what he has not been able to do so far? He was here in his rookie year. He got so close, but they lost by a touchdown. But here, they're facing a team that is ready to go. The Philadelphia Eagles have been stacking up a roster that is looking pretty good right now. But is Joe Burrow the guy to take them down? We're about to find out in a matter of moments. So for this game, I'm going to show you guys the skip the moment piece that I've basically been doing. We just essentially let them go through. We see Philadelphia take an early lead, but Cincinnati comes back and gets a touchdown to make it 7-3. But the Eagles come back, get themselves a touchdown to make it 10-7. Cincinnati's trying to get a big drive going right here, but they don't. Philly scores, make it 13-7. Burrow's driving. Third down alert comes up for him. Red zone alert's coming up for him. The first half is almost done, and Burrow gets him in the end zone to make it 14-13 as they're getting ready to trick into halftime. The Eagles have a little bit of time here, 8 seconds left. They go in and get a touchdown to take the lead 20-14. This is big here, third down, or they come up big. Now the Bengals have a 21-20 lead. I can't even commentate this. Philly comes back with a 26-21 lead with 10 seconds left in the third quarter. This was going to go way down the field. Fourth down alert. This was going to be big. Red zone alert. Now they converted that one, and they get the 3-point lead with 3.5 minutes left. Can Joe Burrow and his team hold on to the lead, or will Philly bounce back? Philly's got a big third down coming up. They're going to end up, looks like, not having that converted. So now the Bengals have the ball with 2 minutes, 11 seconds left. They go for apparently a crazy play has happened. The Bengals have a 10-point lead with 50 seconds left, and I think that's going to be all she wrote right now. The Bengals are going to walk out of here with a Super Bowl trophy on the backs of Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and probably T. Higgins at this point. Unreal. Burrow has done it. He's led his team to the Super Bowl, but it will be the only Lombardi in his career. Will he get more? Let's see what his stats look like. And the MVP is actually not Burrow. It's Von Bell, who had a touchdown off an interception. So Burrow, see what your stats are, but you didn't get the MVP. See how that plays out. So Carson Wentz did not have a great game today. 2 interceptions on 260 yards passing. Burrow, though, has a pretty efficient game. 15-23, those for under 200 yards, but he has 3 touchdowns to go with him and no turnovers. That's Super Bowl MVP-like, but the yards probably hurt him. On the ground, Mixon had a monster day. 25 for 165 and 1 touchdown. Carson Wentz even scored 2 rushing touchdowns, and Miles Sanders got a touchdown of his own too. In the air, though, Mason Barr went 8 for 123 and 2 touchdowns. Henry Ruggs plays for Philly, and he got injured, so maybe that was part of the reason why Philly's offense slowed down a little bit towards that game. Denzel Mims, 6 for 92. T. Higgins, 4 for 41. No touchdowns for him in the Super Bowl. Joe Mixon had a receiving touchdown. So, I mean, honestly, I'd probably give maybe the MVP to Joe Mixon if they looked on offense, but I think Joe Burrow still played well, and he got that Lombardi trophy. Burrow was now a 93 overall, with T. Higgins being a 93 overall, and Joe Mixon being a 92. But again, if you look at his stats, I mean, the guy has been putting up consistent number after consistent number, but he's still not that 95 threshold, which would give him, again, that very last trait that he needs, or ability that he needs. So, no power still to 94, deep accuracy is a 96, his medium's a 95, his short's an 89. He hasn't really gotten that one up, but under pressure's a 95. I think Joe has arrived. Lombardi trophy under his belt. No MVP yet, no Super Bowl MVP. He's got some things left to do. Will he be a 1 Lombardi guy and done, or will he get more? Back half of his career starts now. A year after making the Super Bowl, the team finishes 6-9-1. Hate to see it. Burrow played in every game and had almost 4,000 yards. I mean, literally a yard shy of that. Had 34 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I don't really feel like the issue was him looking at his stats. Joe Mixon, probably not the issue either. 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns. Nothing really too crazy here. I mean, 3 fumbles definitely sucks, but his numbers were pretty much consistent with what they've always been. And Burrow, 102 yards and a touchdown. What he does every year. In the air, T. Higgins balled out too. 81 grabs, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Boyd still kicking it with 4 touchdowns on 80 grabs. You see Mason Barwin, 600 yards on 12 touchdowns. Arcega-Whiteside, 5 touchdowns. So this team offensively was okay. It just had to be the defense to let them down. In year 10, Joe Burrow is a 94 overall, but I really want to show you guys something interesting. Chase Young is now a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. You have Chase Young, you got Joe Burrow, you got T. Higgins, you got this dude Mike Watson who's balling out, and you got Joe Mixon who's still a pretty good running back at this point with Jonah Williams and Mason Barwin. Team has got some talent. Can they add Chase Young and do something big? It's going to be an interesting season. Burrow and the Bengals get back in the postseason after a really bad year of 6-9-1 last year. They're facing Indianapolis with no idea who their quarterback is, but let's see how Burrow's year went this season. So Burrow has another solid season of just under 4,000 passing yards with 35 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Again, 12th in the NFL, not bad, but his 10th year in the league was a pretty solid one. On the ground, Joe Mixon is the ageless wonder. 12 years in the league now, 1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns. What are they going to do when Joe Mixon's gone? I'm kind of worried for them. On the ground, Ken Pearson, 91 grabs, 940 yards. This dude is a monster. I mean, unreal. 5 touchdowns for him. T. Higgins, 850 yards, 9 touchdowns. Arcega-Whiteside has been really good for them too with 8 touchdowns. Mixon is out there doing something too with 5 touchdowns, but Burrow's finding everybody. Pearson has emerged as a real top 10 receiver. Higgins is already a top 3 guy. They can get both those guys on the same page. It's going to be deadly for them in the postseason. So to see how their postseason journey goes, we'll kick it off here as the Bengals take on the Colts in the wildcard round. We'll love to see them get a bye at some point, but they really struggle to do that, and they lose 13-10. Hate to see it. What's interesting on this team is that some of the guys are continuing to do well. You see T. Higgins go up to a 94 overall, the top guy in the team, but Joe Burrow is now decreasing a little bit. 93 overall, he's 33 years of age, so maybe we're starting to see the decline of Joe Burrow. It's going to be an interesting season. So Burrow and the Bengals end up doing decently well this year. They tie in week 17 with the Ravens to go 10-5-1, but it's good enough to be in the postseason. So how did Burrow do though when he's been decreasing a little bit? And speaking of decreasing, Burrow actually went down a lot. He threw 3,500 passing yards, which is 21st in the NFL. Hit 29 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He's not turning the ball over an insane amount, but he's also starting to lose some of his yardage production. Maybe it's the receivers, maybe it's him. Not exactly sure. On the ground, again, Joe Mixon still runs for 1,100 yards. 5 touchdowns for him. Holloway, the backup, the rookie actually goes for 5 touchdowns on 444 yards. Not a great yards per carry, but still solid. And Burrow chimes in for 143 in the ground with 1 touchdown. T. Higgins cannot break 1,000 yards this year. He goes for 850 with 7 touchdowns. You see David Allen also gets 7 touchdowns for them with 800 yards. Jacob Shepard, 635 with 4. Mason Barwin is starting to decrease a lot now with 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. His double-digit days seem to be gone, and Joe Mixon, not bad, but probably a little bit of an afterthought in the passing game this year. And as he hits his 11th year, if you guys are wondering how Joe Burrow was done for the totality of it, 43,000 passing yards, 369 passing touchdowns, 105 interceptions, which is not great, but he's had a really good career so far. And if you're curious about Joe Mixon, well, Zeke Elliott is the #1 rusher of all time in this simulation. Emmitt Smith right behind him, and Joe Mixon is right now in 3rd, just passing Walter Payton. Probably won't catch Emmitt Smith if I had to imagine, but still, top 3, incredible. So for this playoff run, let's see if they can get past the Cleveland Browns here. 10-5-1 versus 10-6. How's it going to play out? They actually win 20-13, and they're going to be facing the Chiefs in this round. But how did our boy Joe Burrow do? Burrow had a interesting game, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 sacks. Baker Mayfield actually played not that bad from a yardage standpoint, but couldn't get into the end zone at all, and that hurt his team. Holloway actually took over here. Mixon appears to not have gotten injured, but just didn't run a ton for some reason. Holloway had 18 for 55. Mixon again didn't get into the end zone. Receiving, Jacob Shepard stepped up, 6 for 82 and 1 touchdown. And really not really seeing much from T. Higgins. Did get a touchdown, but 3 for 23. Not exactly great. So on to the next round, we're seeing, can they get past the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Conference Championship to get Joe Burrow and the Bengals back to the Super Bowl? And sim that one, and we'll see they get a W, 31-17. So Burrow, the Bengals, back in the big game. So it is the Bengals versus the Giants in Joe Burrow's pursuit in his third Super Bowl to try to get his second Lombardi trophy. The Giants are going to be tough. 11-5 on the year. You already know they got a good squad out there every single season. But Burrow, trying to get that Lombardi trophy, trying to get a Super Bowl MVP. People might say you don't want to get the Super Bowl MVP. You don't care about it. You just want to win the trophy. But number 9, he wants both. So again, because we cannot watch CPU versus CPU, we'll see how this basically goes. Now we got a third down alert coming up here. The Bengals strike first, get a 7-0 lead. Giants are trying to drive, goes back to the Bengals. The Bengals are going to try to get in the end zone again. They got a big field goal coming up. They actually get the field goal, so 10-0 lead early here in the first half for the Bengals. Right, again, the Bengals are driving. The Giants have yet to score. They're in the red zone now. And the Bengals get another touchdown, but the Giants answer back and themselves a field goal. Bengals running out here in the first half, trying to get a field goal opportunity up. That one goes in to take a 17-point lead. Here in the third quarter, that looks like the Giants are now down 24. Bengals are running wild. The Giants are coming back. We're down 16 at the moment. He went for a fourth down that obviously did not go out for him too well. With 2 minutes left, Joe Burrow is going to get his team back in the end zone. And the Bengals win their second Lombardi trophy under Joe Burrow being their quarterback. Bengals fans, are you excited? Because you should be. And Joe Burrow is going to be your Super Bowl MVP. 191 yards, 2 touchdowns, similar to what he did in his first Super Bowl win. But it was good enough today to get that MVP. Joe Burrow, congratulations. So again, you see what happened here. Billy Bates goes 21-30 for no touchdowns and 1 interception. Burrow throws under 200 yards with 2 touchdowns. It was enough. It was efficient. It was good to go. On the ground, Joe Mixon 29 for 114 with 1 touchdown. Barkley goes for 93 and a touchdown as well. And then in the air, you see Jalen DeMar goes 6 for 50. Our guy Jacob Shepard, who has been stepping up, 5 for 54 and 1 touchdown. Barman gets a touchdown on 5 for 69. T. Higgins, not a great game for him yet again. Now, coming into his 12th season, Joe Burrow continues to slide down a little bit. T. Higgins is also sliding down a little bit because he's getting up there in age as well. Burrow's now a 91 overall. Again, never saw that 95 overall for him. Mike Watson is our top overall player. And Chase Young, again, the former teammate of Joe Burrow when he did play at Ohio State, gets that Super Bowl ring with him as well and returns yet again this season. We got a couple guys in Gilbert Brown who should be a really good player for them. Tobias Johns looks like he's going to be pretty good, but there's not a lot of highly rated players left. Can they do something better than they did after the last Super Bowl win? I don't know. And despite what I thought would not have been a great year for them, the Bengals, after winning a Super Bowl, are trying to go ahead and repeat. They're 11-5, but they are in the wild card round facing the Buffalo Bills. But Joe Burrow been regressing. How did he do this year? Now, surprisingly, Joe Burrow ends up being 6th overall for passing yards this year. 4,145 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Honestly, it's pretty similar to Lamar Jackson, who has been the multi-MVP so far in his career. It's good company. You see Joe Mixon now starting to actually trail off a little bit. This man is 14 years in the league, 776 yards. Holloway comes in with 519. The ground game wasn't exactly great for anybody, but hey, Joe Burrow ran for 2 rushing touchdowns. And in the air, Jacob Shepard is kind of taken over as the yardage guy. He gets 887 with 7 touchdowns on 55 grabs. T. Higgins, again, another solid year, 844 with 11 touchdowns. Mason Barwick comes back up a little bit, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. And we see David Allen, this guy to North Carolina, for 760 with 2 touchdowns. Again, touchdowns haven't really been crazy, but still spread well enough. And Burrow still has not won an MVP, but he does finish 10th, so it counts for something. So we'll begin with their journey. Burrow versus the Bills. What can the Bengals basically do in the wild? I feel like they play in the wild card round every single year, and they're going to win that one 21-18. Do a quick little upgrade here, see what we got. No one really special. And now the Bengals are going to be facing the Cleveland Browns. Again, they've been facing them a ton. What can the Bengals do against the Cleveland Browns here? Joe Burrow ball out. He does not. They lose by 10. Their season is over, but let's see how Burrow did in that game. So Burrow actually throws for a lot of yards, 351, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, gets sacked twice. Baker Mayfield didn't really play that great, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. On the ground, Nick Chubb doesn't really do a lot there either. Kerryon Johnson, not a lot. Baker Mayfield, but I mean, our running game was terrible. You see Joe Mixon run for 23 yards. Holloway ran for 7. He was non-existent. In the year, Jacob Shepard had one of his best games by far, 7 for 167 and 1 touchdown, had 97 receiving yards after the catch. T. Higgins actually played well, even though he couldn't get into the end zone. You see N'Keal Harry come in with 353. So it must have been a defensive game because this offense did nothing. So at this stage, Joe Burrow is starting to regress a lot more. He says that he has 2 seasons left, this year and then 1 more. At an 88 overall, he's got a lot of work to do for this team. And if we look at his overall roster, Mike Watson's still great. T. Higgins has dropped. Chase Young has dropped a little bit. Gilbert Brown is still pretty young. There's not a lot of veteran talent here. And as you can tell, he hit in the 70s pretty quickly on this roster. And this season ends up being a dumpster fire. 6-10 for the Bengals. I got a feeling Joe Burrow's last year might not be good either. That being said, Burrow does kind of ball out this year. 4,000 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. As you guys saw, not a lot of talent overall in this roster besides him and a couple of other guys. On the ground, we finally see that Joe Mixon has retired. We get 889 yards from Jaden Holloway with 3 touchdowns. Von Rowe behind him goes for 8 rushing touchdowns on 300 yards. And Burrow, no touchdowns, but 100 yards rushing. A guy with the best first name of all time, Doug Booker, comes in with 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. T. Higgins still kicking, 800 yards, almost 900, 5 touchdowns. Mason Barber, the touchdown machine, gets 8 of his own. Malik Oglesby, who is that? We don't know, but he got 5. In Joe Burrow's final season, you can tell that he's not first, not second, not third, not fourth, not fifth. He's number 6 right now. 82 overall at 36 years of age. The final season is coming for Joe Burrow. We can actually see what his stats look like. That will give us a good picture of how he sort of, digressed at this point. 93 throw power, 93 deep accuracy, 85 medium, 89 short. That short accuracy has basically stayed the same his entire career. Still under pressure used to be crazy high. I think 95 at his peak. Now it's an 82 overall. Awareness is down. Throw on run, play action. All those are down. Speed is still the same, so he can still run a little bit, but final season, the swan song for Joe Burrow, it's here. And in Joe Burrow's final season, they have a 3-12-1 record. By far the worst, and I don't think anyone's really surprised at all. For the season, Joe Burrow is 16th in the NFL in passing yards with 3,600. He throws 25 touchdowns, which I think is one of his lowest numbers, and he throws 18 interceptions, which I believe is one of his highest numbers ever. On the ground, Jaden Holloway in the running game did not look so great. When they lost Joe Mixon, a lot of things went downhill, and I'm not surprised. On the receiving side, T. Higgins, though, has 77 grabs for 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns. He absolutely killed it in what could be his final season as well, but if I'm him, I'm probably playing at least another year or so. For Joe Burrow's career, it was a great one. 55,000 passing yards, 458 touchdowns, and 144 interceptions thrown with a 68% completion percentage, and he was sacked 386 times. That sucks, but still. Incredible yards, incredible touchdowns. He had one of the greatest careers of all time and definitely the best of a Bengal ever. For those of you who want to know how T. Higgins did, 968 yards, 12,000, almost 13,000 receiving yards, and 115 receiving touchdowns. Incredible year, incredible career for that guy too. From an all-time passing yard standpoint, you're not going to see Joe Burrow's name on here. He ends up being pretty close to Deshaun Watson, but ends up not going as far as he wants to. From a passing touchdown perspective, however, Drew Brees and Tom Brady ended up tying for their career, but Joe Burrow ends up beating out Lamar Jackson by 2 passing touchdowns. Kind of incredible, but he's still behind Baker Mayfield. Patrick Mahomes balls out with 500 plus, but still, Joe Burrow, an incredible career. And in terms of the pantheon of greatest quarterbacks of all time, you're going to see that Joe Burrow did have a really good career. He ended up getting 2 Super Bowls, 2 championships, and 8 yearly awards. You would have loved to have seen him get some MVP recognition, and I feel like there were a couple of seasons where he definitely earned that, but still, he didn't get that, but respect is due where we see it, and Joe Burrow definitely deserves it. So that is going to do it for Joe Burrow's entire NFL career. It was a great one in my opinion. Multiple Super Bowls. He got himself a Lombardi trophy with a Super Bowl MVP in his last run there. You love to see it. What do you think about Joe Burrow's career? Did you think it was great? You think it was mediocre? Do you think he could have done better? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave me a comment down below telling me what player we should simulate their career next. I want to see how it goes. I want to see what you guys think, and see you guys in the next one.